Section 4.1 is all about writing equations in slope-intercept form. In the last chapter, we were graphing. We were finding slope, we were graphing it using slope-intercept form with the M and the B. In this chapter, we're going to actually be taking information about the line and finding the equation. So just to review, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Remember, your job is to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So in example number 1, it says write an equation of the line with a slope of 4 and a y-intercept of -3. So if I have a slope of 4, then that means m is 4. If my y-intercept is -3, that means the b is -3. So I simply just have to put it into the equation, y equals 4x minus 3. And that would be my answer. In example number 2, we're given the graph and asked to find the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So to start, it says which equation represents the line shown. So we have a multiple choice problem. So the first thing we need to realize is we need to identify the m and we need to identify the b. To find the slope, we're going to use the most basic definition of slope, which is rise over run. Now, if you remember from last chapter, I always said to start with the leftmost point, which in this case is the 0, -2. And I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units up, so that'd be +5, and over 1, 2, 3, so +3. So my slope would be +5 over 3. The b I can identify just by looking at the graph. The b is the y-intercept, so the place where it crosses the y-axis. Where this line crosses the y-axis is right here at 0, -2. So that would mean that the b value is -2. So putting it into the equation, y equals mx plus b, we would have y equals 5 over 3x minus 2, which would be option B with our multiple choice. Example number 3 is a lot like example number 2, except this time we don't have multiple choice options. It says write an equation of the line shown. So remember, our job is to find the m and to find the b. Again, we will find the slope using the most basic definition of slope. We'll start with the leftmost point and we'll count down 1, 2, 3. So it's down 3. After counting down 3, we're now going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we went to the right, it's +4. So our slope is -3 over 4. Looking at the graph to find the b, we look at the spot where the line crosses the y-axis, which would be right here at 0, 2. So that means our y value, our y-intercept, is 2. So our final equation, putting it into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, would be y equals m, which was -3 over 4, x, plus b, which is 2. Now don't be mistaken, sometimes it won't be easily identified what the y-intercept is. That's the next section where we'll actually have to solve for b. But in this section, we will always be able to identify what the slope is, either because we're looking at the graph and able to identify it, or we are given the ordered pair where it is 0 something. Anything along the y-axis will be 0, something. So therefore we can identify the y-intercept given a point if the x value is 0. So as stated in the last slide, you can always identify the y-intercept if you are given a point that is 0, something. Whatever that something is would be your b value, your y-intercept. Because if I was given a graph, all along the y-axis, the x value would be 0. So for example, just to pick some random points here, let's say that this is right here at 3. That ordered pair would be 0, 3. If I pick a point above it, it would be 0, 4. If I pick a point below it, 0, -1. Pick a point way down here, 0, -3. Every point along the y-axis has an x value of 0. And if you remember from the last chapter, when you're finding a y-intercept, you put 0 in for x because we knew that all along the y-axis, the x value is 0. So again, anytime you're given a point that's 0, something, that something would be your y-intercept, otherwise known as the b value. So if I was given the 2 points 4, 3 and 0, -2, I would know that this is my y-intercept because I had a 0 for the x. So my b value would be -2. This point 4, 3 is not the y-intercept because it did not have a 0 for the x value. So again, 0 comma something, that something is your b value. Example number 4. Write an equation for the linear function f with values of f of 0 equals 3 and f of negative 4 equals 11. So remember, whenever you're given function values like this, f of 0 equals 3 and f of negative 4 equals 11, what I'm actually given is some ordered pairs. Normally this says f of x, so they're replacing the x with a 0, meaning my x value is 0, and f of x is always equal to a y value. So in this case, my y value is 3. So I'm really given 0, 3, and this one, I have negative 4 for the x value, and my f of x is equal to 11. So my ordered pair is negative 4, comma 11. So when it says write an equation for the linear function, I need to find the m, and I need to find the b. Since I'm given just 2 ordered pairs, I'm going to use the equation to find the slope, which we learned in the last chapter is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, subtract the y's over subtract the x's. And it doesn't matter which y value you start with, as long as whatever y value you start with that same x value in the denominator. So in this case, I'm going to start with the 11 first. It'd be 11 minus the other y value, which is 3. Since I started with the 11, that means I'm going to start with negative 4 in the denominator. So negative 4 minus the other x value, which is 0. Simplifying this, 11 minus 3 is 8, and negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4. Simplify that, we have 8 divided by negative 4, which is negative 2. So my m, my slope, is negative 2. In the last slide, we learned that anytime I have 0 comma something, that something is my b value. So the b value in this case is 3. So now that I know the m is negative 2 and the b is 3, I'll put it all together and write the equation y equals negative 2x plus 3. And there's my equation like I was asked for. Example number 5 is a lot like example number 4, just this time we're not given our ordered pairs in function form, we're actually just given the ordered pairs as they are. So it says write an equation for a line that passes through negative 5, 0, and 0, 8. So again, this time we're already given the ordered pairs, so I just have to find the m, and I need to find the b. Once again, I was not given the slope, so I'm going to have to do y minus y over x minus x. I'll start with this 8, so that would take me 8 minus the y value 0. Since I started with the 8, I'll start with the 0 in the denominator, so 0 minus negative 5. 8 minus 0 is 8. 0 plus positive 5 is 5, so my slope is 8 over 5. Looking at my ordered pairs now, I have negative 5, 0, and 0, 8. Now this can be tricky. A lot of people just see the 0 and automatically assume that the b value is negative 5. But remember, it has to be 0 comma something. That's when you know you have the b value. So this would be my b value, which would be 8. So to put it all together, I would have y equals 8 over 5 x plus 8. And there's my final answer. And this section will also include story problems. So here's a couple tips about what to look for in the story problems. In the last chapter, we talked about rate of change. Now remember, that's just the real world version of slope. So again, slope is your rate of change, like how fast something is changing. So this could be things like how much you're paying for your cable bill per month. It might be how much you are charged every week in order to be a member to a certain gym. When you're trying to identify what is your rate of change or your slope, look for words like per or each. So again, you might see things like how much money you're spending per month, or how much you're charged per apple, or whatever the case may be. You might see each week you pay this much. So look for words per and each to identify your slope. For the y-intercept, you can identify that by your starting amount, like your initial amount. For example, it would be something like a gym membership. You might be charged $20 per month or each month, so that would identify what your slope is. But there may have been an initial amount that you had to pay just to become a member of the club. So let's say you're charged $20 per month, but you had an initial $50 membership fee. So your slope would have been $20 and your y-intercept would have been that initial amount, $50. So let's put all of that to use. Example number 6, a dance academy charges $20 to use the facility and $25 per hour of instruction. Part A says write an equation that gives the total cost to learn dance at the academy as a function of the hours of instruction. So again, let's identify our independent and dependent variable. This says as a function of the hours of instruction. The number of hours that you have in class will determine your total cost. So our X value will be the number of hours. And let's let Y equal the total cost, because again, that's your dependent variable because it is being determined by the total number of hours that you are having dance instruction. So now let's actually find the equation. So it said you were charged $20 to use the facility and $25 per hour of instruction. I see that word per, just like we said in the last slide, that signals to me that would be the slope. So it's $25 per hour, so M is 25, and I was charged that $20 just for using the facility to begin with. So that's my initial amount, so B equals 20. So my equation would be Y equals, so the total cost equals $25 per hour, so times X, plus that $20 initial fee for using the facility. Part B says find the total cost of 2 hours of dance instruction. It says 2 hours. Hours were our X values. That's why we identified them up here. So X is the number of hours. So if I'm supposed to find the total cost of 2 hours, that means X equals 2. And all I'm going to do is take this X equals 2, plug it into the equation for X, and solve for Y. So I have Y equals 25 times 2 plus 20. 25 times 2 is 50, plus 20 is 70. So you would have been charged $70 for 2 hours of instruction. And that is it for this section. Make sure you jot down anything you didn't understand that we can clarify in class before we move on, and we'll see you then.